We know that the two sons of Guanacanari ended up performing a guardián, or a ceremony of brotherhood, with King Ferdinand of Aragon and with Juan de Castile, the prince. Even though we don't know their indigenous names, we know that one of them was named afterwards Fernando de Aragon and the other one was named Juan de Castilla. So this particular indigenous boy or young man was known as El Indio Don Juan, and he lived in Barcelona with El Príncipe Heredero. It is said that El Príncipe se encaprichó con él, or he was smitten by him. Oviedo writes, mas aquel segundo que se llamó Don Juan de Castilla quiso el príncipe para sí, y que quedase en su real casa y que fuese muy bien tratado y mirado, como si fuera hijo de un caballero principal, a quien tuviera mucho amor. Él le mandó doctrinar y enseñar en las cosas de nuestra santa fe. Él dio cargo de él a su mayordomo, Patiño, al cual indio yo vi en estado que hablaba ya bien la lengua castellana. In other words, Oviedo himself got to know this indigenous man in Spain, because Oviedo was actually a page boy basically when he was younger. For his trip to the Dominican, or to La Española, he lived in the court of Isabela and Ferdinand. So he got to personally meet these indigenous people. He also was the witness of at least 6 baptisms of these indigenous boys that came with Colón on his ship. The one named Juan de Castilla ended up staying in Spain for at least 2 years, learning the language and culture, but then he unfortunately passed away. He also writes something really interesting that I don't know how to place, because he says, todos los otros indios volvieron a esta isla en el segundo viaje que a ella hizo el almirante, al cual aquellos gratísimos príncipes católicos hicieron señaladas mercedes y en especial le confirmaron su privilegio en la dicha Barcelona a 28 de mayo de 1493. And he gives us a little bit more information about the other indigenous boys. He says that a un indio que era el más principal de ellos llamaron Don Fernando de Aragón, el cual era natural de esta española y pariente del rey o cacique Guanacanari. So he makes that very clear. And then he says que a los demás se le dieron otros nombres, so they also did a guatiao with these other indigenous people, como ellos los pidieron o sus padrinos acordaron que se les diese conforme a la Iglesia Católica. So they kind of merged the two faiths. For the indigenous people, they were doing a guatiao while getting baptized. So for the Catholics, they were baptizing them, changing their names, and they were becoming Spanish. So from what we know, these boys went through something unimaginable to us, of being kidnapped, taken from their homes, from their islands, taken as interpreters, meeting so many people from different cultures and backgrounds from their own area in the world, but they didn't know these people. They didn't even speak the same language, but they did what they could to survive, even though they were very young. Then to go on this massive ship to more worlds unknown, and then to be taught and indoctrinated in a completely different culture and language. The only one that we absolutely know survived long enough to have children was that one indigenous boy who was constantly at Colón's side. He was baptized in Spain and given the name of Diego Colón. He is the only indigenous person that we know of that survived 2 trips to Spain and also learned the Spanish language and several other indigenous languages in order to serve as an interpreter, not only for Cristóbal Colón, but also for Nicolás de Ovando. And we'll see what his life was like for the next episode.